Just had to double check the microphone. Yo, 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 I'm back. Been a little hiatus. Life's been kicking me in the back. It's not that bad. It's like, you know, I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my shit. But yeah, man, like I haven't stopped, Things kind of slow to a crawl, but you never stop. You just keep going, and I'm going to keep going. And that's what I'm going to do. Give me 1 second. I'm doing something. Okay. There we go. Alright. I'm getting into, this is volume 4. We're getting to the end of Bloody Knuckles, chapter 4. And it is what it is. Oh, that's why this ain't looking right. Okay. I'm gonna keep that though. I'm gonna do it like that. Now let's go up. I'm gonna do better at stuff to talk about. Cause I don't know, sometimes, well, I'm very politically minded. It's crazy. I just watched a TikTok video and a white guy described what the 5%ers were. And I'm like, damn, am I a 5%er? Like, I never went through the I know what the 5%ers are. I'm from Chicago, but here's the thing about Chicago, what people don't understand. Chicago is very versatile because it's in the center of the country. Not center, it's in, roughly speaking. But because it's such a big city, it's like all the cultures of the country kind of converge in Chicago. And every place is getting very diverse. But Chicago has always been a place where you can find people from around the world. But here's another thing that's interesting is like the cultures of the East Coast, the West Coast, and the South kind of converge in Chicago too. And it's kind of like, depending on the crowd, you come up in Chicago, you may lean towards, one of those dynamics. So some people are more southern inclined, some people are more East Coast inclined, and some people are more West Coast inclined. And the easiest way to tell is really their music choices. I was more of an East Coast guy, even though I dipped in a little bit of everything. So that's how I know who the 5%ers are. Because I was, as a young man, I chose Wu-Tang over Bone Thugs and Harmony. That was a big debate in high school. Like, there used to be tables of guys like debating who was better, Wu-Tang or Bone Thugs. And I think those were like the two groups with kind of like almost philosophical music, describing the street stuff. And so I say this because as the white guy described it, the 5%ers believe the world is ruled by 10%, and they're the 5%, and then the other 85% is being controlled by the 10%, and the job of the 5% is to bring knowledge to the 85, so that we may one day rise up. And I say I must be a 5%er because I was kind of just I was having a political debate with somebody, and I was kind of like just breaking it down to him that like we're not, and I said this before, like I haven't done any research or anything. I just, this is just from my opinion. I feel like the black market is the real market, and the market we dabble in is kind of like, I like to use the concept of like a bird cage. And that's why it's one of the dynamics of why we see governments behaving so corrupt, and why the black market is so large. Because at first my idea was that the black market, and let's say just for simplicity, let's call it the white market. Like, and it has nothing to do with race. It's just these are just generic terms. But the black market is illegal activity, global illegal enterprises, and the white market is the market used by law-abiding citizens, right? I always surmised that there was only one market, and these things are deeply intertwined, right? And because it's like first of all, anything that's made illegal immediately moves to the black market and expands almost immediately. So it seems very I don't know what word I want to use, but making something illegal doesn't end the practice. It actually makes it worse. That's the first thing. But over the years, more recently, I started to think that, okay, the black market is the real market. I still think they're very interconnected. But the black market is the real market, the real world market. And what we operate in is kind of like I say, this bird cage. Because if you look at the way economics has transversed historically, like in the building of nations, it's always been like black market tactics first. Anything goes, no rights for labor, slavery, sex slavery, the manufacturing and distribution of goods by any means, with no regard for human life or conditions. But it's only after like a nation gets to a point of a certain level of stability do we start to introduce you know, white market concepts, and then, you know, protective measures for people that are working and just average folks in society per se. And so it's strange to me. I'm always having political debates with people who don't realize that this thing exists, or the nature of what exists and how it exists. And so they don't understand that, you know, because their mindset is about following the rules and just do this and just do that. And what they don't realize is that for the 10% that is in control of the entire globe, these people, there are no rules for these people. And I think a lot of the turmoil that we see in the world today is a strategic move by this ruling 10% to upset the established order and like create a new deal, a new situation, by first making the old situation obsolete. And you know, I think they've gotten so rich and powerful, and they really view they don't view us as people. We're like a resource, and they don't respect politicians. They just view them as thieves and middlemen. And so they're creating a situation where they want to cut out the middleman, and they don't want to follow these laws or rules anymore. They just want to make their money like they make their money everywhere around the world. Because it's only in the first world countries where they have to care about the environment or worry about labor laws or worker safety. You know, in other countries, they can bypass all that and just basically have workers as indebted slaves, working as many hours as they need them to produce all the goods that they want. I think the greatest flaw is that this level of wealth has only been made possible due to the freedom and consumerism of the American markets. Because everything's made everywhere else, but it's bought and sold in America. And so it'll be a grave mistake to take away the freedom of the American people. Because you're not only taking away their freedom of ownership and movement, what will go with that is their freedom to purchase and buy. It really makes no sense to me. It's like I'm watching the most intelligent and powerful people on the planet lead us to a global collapse, and it's kind of like part of their plan, and they know it's going to happen. But I don't know why they think that they will be the only ones to survive this thing. They won't be spared. Their contingencies will fail, and it just won't be pretty. So it's just like a complete hubris. Like, because if I was one of these people, what I would want to do is expand the middle class and try to build a middle class everywhere, make more consumer nations. I couldn't imagine the amount of money that would be possible. Billionaires would be trillionaires right now if that was the case. I mean, they lose more money on racism and subjugation. But I guess it's just like human beings haven't evolved to the point where we can, we were ready for like the internet. It's obvious that we haven't evolved to the point of where we can manage having all this wealth. We just don't got it in us, not yet. So you got folks wanting to play God, thinking they can destroy most of the human population on Earth to some twisted end, which really is just all about money. Like right now, all the wars and everything that's going on the planet, all this turmoil, everything that's going on, is kind of like the fire sale. If you ever seen Die Hard, I think Die Hard 4, when this terrorist group kind of took down the American infrastructure, causing all this chaos just so they could steal millions of dollars, billions of dollars. And that's kind of what's really happening right now, is these folks are causing global catastrophes. And what's happening behind the scenes of each catastrophe, if we're really paying attention, is you'll see a large transfer in resources and wealth. And that's what's happening with the fires, the riots, the racial stuff, the wars. It's just a robbery on a global scale, on some real like global mafia shit. And that's really the gist of it. It's not aliens. I don't want to say it's not spiritual, because I used to believe, but part of me is starting to think that, because you guys gotta be some kind of cultist, devil worshiping motherfuckers to even come up with something like this. So I don't know. It might be a little spiritual, but at the core of it, it's just like some global mafia shit. They're just thieves. They're stealing so much money. It's ridiculous. And we're arguing and fighting over everything else. Completely distracted. Like a lot of people say, we're marching towards Armageddon. But the sad part is, the people who are orchestrating the whole thing, they think that they will get through unscathed, and they won't. They really won't. Why won't they get through unscathed? Have you ever seen The Red Dragon? It's part of the Hannibal Lecter series, the movies. And in the beginning of not the beginning of the movie, it's kind of like they show you how Will Graham catches Hannibal Lecter, and then time passes. Will Graham leaves the FBI, and they go get him to come catch a new killer, and he enlists the help. He enlists the help of Hannibal Lecter. So then, they have this exchange, and I'll never forget it. And Hannibal Lecter said, "You need my help. I'm so smart." I'm paraphrasing. He's like, "But if I'm so smart, why do you need my help?" He said, "It was you that caught me." And he's like, "Well, you had a disadvantage." What was my disadvantage? You were insane. So no matter how smart or intelligent you are, or good with money, or this or that, your insanity is so pathological that it's going to lead to your downfall. And I think that's true for the folks who are wrecking the world for profit and control. The very nature of what you're doing is pure insanity. And it's your insanity that clouds your judgment and your ability to properly analyze the outcome. And when you cause this great reset, it's going to reset, but you won't end up on top. It's like they don't read history books. Heads on pikes. And I don't want to see that. But that's how it's going to end. And I've seen rich people talking. Some wealthy people are talking and trying to convince other folks from their community to stop the madness because they understand how it's going to end. And they don't want to be lumped in with all the other wealthy when the poor masses see that the jig is up and start putting heads on pikes. It's a strange situation. Me, I'm optimistic. Hope it'll never even come to that. I think we're close for it to get bad enough that people are actually going to take stock. Because for us to get out of this jam, it's as easy as us not participating in certain systems. And then just like becoming more involved in the world and going out and solving our own problems. That's all it is. And it's as easy as like, let's say you got a lot of potholes on your block. Why are we waiting on the government? Let's go around, mobilize, see if we can find somebody to fix it, and figure out what we need to do to just fix it ourselves. Like imagine if groups of people wandered around the city just solving problems without the bureaucracy of local government. Now I imagine initially it'll become a problem. But they don't want you to solve problems. Because the problems are meant to exist because it's always potential profit in solving a problem. And that's the whole thing about the bureaucracy, and you gotta get a permit to work here and do that because the people who need to do the work need to be paid. But then also the bureaucrats, they want their piece of the chop too for every single thing that happens. And then the people they work for need to get their little piece of the action too. But if normal citizens began to volunteer their expertise in time and labor to just solve the problems with no payment, that usurps the whole system. So I imagine if a small group of people began to do things like that, initially they'll be met with a lot of resistance, maybe even some type of legal ramifications. But I think that's the way of the revolution, not protesting and getting into fights in the streets. It's mobilizing significant numbers of men to physically go out and, I think, first of all, beginning to slowly take steps repairing infrastructure uh, and building economic literacy, and start making like community trust where the community can grow wealth and begin to own the property of the community, so then they don't have to bargain or beg the government to prevent some type of gentrification. The people who lived on that block should own the block. And I don't think it'll take, because how many people live on a city block? 200 to 400, depending on if there's a, housing complex, a large apartment complex. So it wouldn't be hard to start a community trust. I think the key is to find a financier that would help those people invest and grow the trust as quick as possible, and then they would create a LLC under the community trust that would buy and manage the properties and the land on the block, and then they could do whatever they want with it. They could open up their own store, do a little rec center for the youth, and no one would ever be able to take it away because they own it. That's how that's more valuable than a million people marching through the streets. The marching is benefiting the 10%, because the marches are easily turned violent, turned into riots, creating more turmoil. That's a strange word. Turmoil. And feeding into, the degradation of the country. This is my long 2 cents. I always struggle with, what do I talk about when I'm drawing? But this feels right. I almost wanted to make like a separate page, separate like channel, just talking about political stuff. But I really don't like showing my face. I'm ugly. No, I'm not ugly. I'm okay. I think if I dress up real nice, I'm like a 7. Pause. They say guys shouldn't rate themselves like that. I'm decent. So I think what I do in the future is like, because a lot of times it's crazy. What I do is I'll see something political or something in the social sphere, in the zeitgeist. And it's crazy. Like I don't have a lot of people to talk to about this sort of thing. So I would have entire conversations in my head just about a subject, going on and on. So I think what I'll do in the future is I'll like write down the major points and then bring those conversations to the drawing board with me. Because I've been struggling with this process. And it is about getting more views. I can't lie and say it's not about that. But then, I'm getting to the point where it's like, okay, I gotta pick a niche, find something to talk about, or get a partner to do kind of like turn this into like a podcast situation. But it's hard to find somebody who's gonna show up every day. It's hard to find people that believe in your dream. And why should they? It's your dream. Everyone has their own dream. Excuse me. So like I said, I'm going to just write down the finer points and keep having discussions like this. Mixing politics with art. Art is political. My art is political. Bloody Knuckles is political. It's kind of like my commentary on like black gang culture. And we really see how the lines between black culture and the street culture gets mixed. And the detriment. Like on the surface, the culture of the people in the world of Bloody Knuckles might seem attractive. But when you get deep into it, you start seeing what the parts that are wrong with it, and the corruption, and the abuses of power. And then another thing you notice is like how their culture is going to affect their ability to succeed. It's going to stifle their chances at victory, which is the most important part. That's always been, and not just the issue for black Americans, but for African people across the globe. Our greatest detriment has been the ego and the inability to work with others. Historically, we've always been easy to separate and pick apart. But in truth, I don't call myself a 5%er. Like, first of all, I haven't been indoctrinated into the language and the lingo of a 5%er. They got a whole thing going on. And me personally, I don't deal with groups. I'll never associate. Like, I struggle with calling myself a Christian. And I have come to a new understanding in the true belief of Christ, but I can't call myself a Christian because I understand that belief in Jesus and God is different than organized religion. And so I would never pledge my allegiance to a religion, you know. I got family members that are Muslim and in the Brotherhood, and I got respect for all that. Like, I got family members that are full Christians, and they have a deep allegiance to the religion. But I bow to no man, only God. And we serve no man, only God. So I just can't do it. It won't be honest. Now, I do believe in cooperation and working with my brothers and sisters from any denomination that they choose. But you know, it gets weird when when the recruitment starts. There's nothing you're gonna tell. I'm too knowledgeable. I'm too knowledgeable about spirituality, about religion, about indoctrination, about the psychology behind it all. Like, there's nothing you're gonna sell me on. It's just never gonna happen. But I do see the benefit for others, so I'm not against it. I'm not against the Hebrew Israelites. I'm not against the Brotherhood. I am against the street organizations. I think they've outstayed their welcome, and nothing about them is salvageable. Like, gang cultures, black gang cultures in America today are like the KKK to me at this point. Y'all kill so many black people, send so many black people to prison. And even just your way of life is so detrimental to the black mind and the black spirit. It's unfathomable. Did I say that right? I gotta work on my speech. It's been a while since I've spoken and used such language. But it's insane, and we've been duped. And what people don't realize, because they don't know history, is that, you know, because there's all this rhetoric about the street culture that is kind of like this last act of rebellion against the powers that be, not knowing that the street culture was funded by and controlled by the powers that be. It always has been. It's been financed by the oppressor. It always has been, from the very beginning, and it still is. And yet we don't see it, and we still abide by it. I'm going silent. I don't know if I'm gonna finish. I'm gonna finish this whole page, but I don't know if I'm gonna do it in this setting on this video. I'm already like damn near an hour in. Anyone gonna listen to an hour of political speak? Let me do this. That make more sense. I might get close though. Let me go back. Oh shit. I'll do that. Another trick is to get us to not participate en masse. I think a great protest would be if we just took a year and didn't celebrate any holidays. It would send a very huge message. And it's not about disrespecting the holidays, because I think people can still celebrate, get together with your family. I mean, if you must travel, travel, but don't spend the money. Just get together and hang out and have a good time, and don't buy liquor, don't buy weed, don't buy booze. I mean, use whatever food is on hand. Maybe everybody can bring portions of the food that they normally have and get together, and you can still celebrate. You don't need all the noise and the toys to celebrate, you know. Especially Christmas. Do Christmas with just the family and no gifts. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but to do that, just to take 1 year and nobody spends money on Christmas, that'll send a crazy message. If only one could organize such a thing. Because what I would do is, if I had the power, because it'd be the safest thing to do. Nobody would have to threaten their jobs. Nobody's jobs would be threatened. Nobody's lives would be threatened. But just for millions, billions of Americans to just what we would do is, from this point on, until the next election for president, we would forego participation in any holidays as far as financially. And then when the presidential election swung around, nobody would vote. No one. Like, and then we would have to find some representatives to come out and make demands, to those in charge, to let them know, like, if you want the wheels to turn again, this is what we need, and the wheels won't turn until we get what we need. It's really just like that. I think that'll be that's the safest and best move we could make, in my eyes. And then you don't have to worry about nobody getting hurt in the street, going to prison, losing their jobs. Because I'm still going to work every day. I'm still doing this. It's just, what we're going to do is take away a huge payday. A lot of huge paydays. And then on top of that, if you got a population of people that, like, reduce their spending in the market, it's like there will be no market. I'm not finna buy boats and fancy clothes, and we really gotta have an economic revolution, because I don't see us having success with a military revolution. I don't think we have the ability to organize properly, and then it comes to the point of, like, okay, such a thing would be risking the lives of so many people. And it's like, to what end? And maybe it's naive of me to think that we could make real change without risking people's lives, but I think it's worth a try. I don't see how we save lives by putting them at risk. That don't make sense to me. Nope, that's my cue. Man, I've got to this point. I'm gonna finish the page now, and then I'll end the video. Let's see, I got all. I think that's it. Hold on. Let me color this in. Get these little spots. Mm. Alright, thanks for tuning in. Leave some comments. Tell me if you agree with my social political commentary. Feel free to call me an idiot. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't mind hearing it. I'm not sensitive. Even though I don't really respond to overtly negative comments, it don't bother me. I just don't see a point in going back and forth with it. But if somebody has like real commentary, and even if it disagrees with me, then I have no problem engaging with that. If we're having like real discussions, and if someone hears what I say and they feel like I need education, please feel free to educate me, and not in a and I'm not saying that in kind of a like a combative sort of way. Like I mean it literally. Like I want education, and if it's something I'm missing or something that I'm wrong about, feel free to let me know. I look forward to the engagement. Here's this page, Bloody Knuckles, coming soon. Oh, I almost forgot. Let me drop this. Boom. Okay. I think that's all the pieces. Peace.